Lance Hall here for the Metal Pit. Happy to welcome Tyler, lead vocalist for Midnight Vice, to the program tonight. Tyler, what's happening?
Not a whole lot, man. I'm happy to be talking to you, dude. How you doing?
Doing well. We were talking just briefly. You're a busy man right now. You're moving, you're working jobs, you're putting music out.
I'm
Damn.
in hectic. A full plate. What I asked for, apparently.
That's rock and roll, right? Now, let's see. It's a couple days. This is the physical release of your debut EP, right? It's been out digitally for a while, but this is the physical release that's coming out on
Yeah,
the
dude.
4th.
First time. This is the first one that our EP has released on any given physical format. So it's super cool. It's super exciting. And just for the first time a couple weeks ago, I got to actually hold my own record in my hand. It's just like a huge moment for me. So it's been great, dude.
What went through your mind as you're sitting there with that vinyl in your hand? You're a guy who's probably held a lot of vinyls in your hands. You're looking at stuff and albums and stuff,
Yeah, man.
and now you're looking at your own. What goes
Yeah,
through your
dude.
mind?
It's funny because it's like I'm a huge vinyl guy. I collect a lot of vinyl, and I think that just when the box shows up and you're slicing it open and you pull the record out and it's your record, I think it's a feeling like no other. It's super surreal, especially when we were first starting out. We didn't really have any intentions of anything ever going this far. So just to see just to see your own record in your hand, it's an unbelievable experience.
I was going to say, you must have this little like time warp going through your head of remembering singing for the first time, grabbing a guitar for the first time, first practice, first gig, and now the culmination of it right there in your hands.
Yeah, it's crazy. You almost can't believe it because you're just sitting there and you're holding it and you're like, holy shit, like I'm significant enough to to have my own record. It's such a cool feeling, dude.
Yeah. Congrats. Congrats. That is huge.
Thank
Of
you.
course, you pick up that album. The first thing is the cover art. Martyr of Decay did the cover art for you.
Yes. Yes, he did. He's done a lot of actually pretty much all of our release art he's done for us. So he did Baptized by Fire, he did the EP, and then he was so good that we back in touch with him to do the White Witch cover.
How did your relationship with him come about?
I think we were just looking for artists. Instagram was a good platform for that because it's like every artist's Instagram is their portfolio. So we were really just looking at who other bands were working with. And at that point, the algorithm just triggered a bunch of different artists coming up on our explore page. And we stumbled across him. And I loved his art. And I remember I pitched it to the guys and they were down. And it's funny because when we did the Baptized by Fire artwork, that was a preset design that he had already done. So it wasn't even made for Midnight Vice. And a lot of artists do that. So he cut us a deal where we got some commission work done with him, and that was and he sold us a pre-made piece of art. And we just looked through his catalog of pre-made art that was for sale, and we just found one and really accommodated one of the songs we thought would be good as a single. And that was that. So that's how we established our relationship with. And I just remember being absolutely blown away with the cover work or with the commission work that he did for our EP. So I knew that he was going to knock it out of the park for White Witch.
Yeah.
Sit that thing and all consistent and we just looked good. So that was what we rolled with. But he's a great dude, man. He's a very versatile artist and he has yet to disappoint us.
Very cool. Very cool. Is he based out of Florida like you guys or somewhere else?
So actually, I don't know where I don't even think he's in the United States.
Okay.
Yeah. We just communicate with him over Instagram. I hit him up on Instagram and I say, hey, this is what I need. And he always delivers.
Yeah. Now we're going to turn the album over. We see the song list. I haven't seen a picture of it yet. I'm assuming you have band member names and stuff on it as well on there.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay. Now there's you and Lakota in the band. You guys are like founding members. And then you guys got Sam and Dennis in there after a few different lineup changes. And this solidified the lineup. This is like the magic bullet.
That is correct. And then
Yes.
we also just hired a new guy for our second guitar player. He's not on the EP, but he's gonna be working with us here in the future. His name's Dakota. Dakota and Dakota.
Okay. Hey, why not?
Yes, we were confusing. That's the way it happened. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, I listened to the EP, so I made a few notes on some of the songs. I was just going to go over with you. Track 1, Strike in the Night. I grew up in the 80s. I came of age in the 80s. This is like 1985 again. But I heard like some Enforcer in there. The time change on the solo, I loved it. Did you have twin leads coming out of that solo?
Yes, we do. So it's funny because with the EP, there was only 4 of us at the time, but we recorded all of our music. All of our music was recorded and written under the impression of us eventually finding a second guitar player. So that's where we play. When the EP was first and foremost before it was out, and even shortly after it being out, Sam was just playing everything without all of those harmonies that you hear. So now we have a second guitar player, and he's filling in, and he's playing all those harmonies that you hear on the EP.
Nice. Track 2, Spellcaster. The lyrics are just brilliant. So they're old school lyrics.
Yeah.
The musicianship is great. This is like a Dungeons and Dragons. Did I get that right?
That is what we call it every time before we play. I always say this song is for all of the Dungeons and Dragons fans out there. That was essentially what I was shooting for as far as the lyrical theme of that song. It's just supposed to be a super theatric song that takes the listener to a certain setting, things along those lines.
Yeah. Did you guys happen to print the lyrics out on the inside sheet of
There's a lyric sheet on both the CD and the vinyl.
Cool, because your lyrics are just so great. It would be a pity not for everybody to read along with them and just be able to know every word.
I feel as a singer, I don't have enough to do other than write good lyrics. So I really do try to take my time and make sure that I write colorful lyrics.
You paint some fabulous pictures.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Track 3, Excalibur. The first thing I thought of was that movie from 1981 called Excalibur. You ever seen that about King Arthur and the Round Table and stuff?
It's been a long time, but yes, I have seen that.
And again, the lyrics reminded me of like the first Yngwie album. And are those swords clanking together at the end of the solo? Yes. Is that what that's supposed to be?
Yes, we have a sample of 2 swords clanking. I made it very clear that I wanted that in the song.
Yeah. So, yeah. Picked up on that right away. Baptized by Fire. This where you've got a performance video for it. Very cool. The bass line really jumped out at me on this one. Just riffage for days. I'm reading my notes here. It was my favorite track. I love the little Eddie Van Halen horse whinny on the out of the solo.
Oh, yeah, man.
Got that in there. And then at the end of the video, you pull a little Gene Simmons and blow some fire.
Yeah, dude, that was the first time I'd ever done that, too. I had no idea how to do it, but we had a music video scheduled, and I wanted to do something with fire, and I figured the cheapest option was just to try and spit fire. So, fun fact, I actually did that with kerosene. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah. I've seen it done with like cornmeal or something. I think it was cornmeal or something like that. But yeah, kerosene, that's scary.
I think the performers use lamp oil. Used to use, but I was driving to the music video shoot. I didn't have anything just in terms of equipment for breathing fire. So I made a quick stop at Walmart, and I just found what I remember. I found a $3 t-shirt and found a toy shovel. And I found kerosene. So these were the tools that I had.
Yeah.
I took the head of the shovel off, so I just had this wooden stick. I tied the t-shirt around the top of the stick, and then I just soaked it in kerosene, and then I just knocked a little bit of kerosene back, and then that was all she wrote.
That is about as DIY as you can get. Yeah.
No, I did. I was looking. I knew that I was supposed to have lamp oil, so I tried to find it, which is just not. It wasn't happening.
Yeah.
I just did a quick Google search to see if I could use kerosene, and I think the general consensus was people have used it. And I'm like, okay, that's good enough, and then I bought it. And
I'll tell you what, if that was your first time, you pulled it off.
Yeah, dude, I was super stoked, and I was doing like practice ones because I also bought like a gallon of water so I could just practice not getting the dribble down my chin and burning myself. So I did that a good couple of times, and then after that, it was just full send pretty much.
There's that iconic shot you see every once in a while of Gene blowing fire from like early in the Kiss days, and that shot at the end of the video, you look just like it. It was great.
Yeah, dude, I think subconsciously, I'm sure that was a big inspiration as to why I wanted to do it, because I love Kiss. You know, I don't necessarily had an idea of what I was shooting for. I just think I wanted have the theatrics of the music video match the song, and I wanted to do something with fire, and it wasn't in the budget to have all these crazy pyrotechnics.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like the most economic, logical choice.
Yeah. Track 5, Mysteria, the ballad of the EP. And these lyrics, you're pissed.
I was pretty fast when I wrote those lyrics for sure.
But yet there's a little bit of a longing for inner peace. There's a little empathy in there as well. It's a well-rounded emotional type song. Was there any?
I think that the main takeaway from that song was just going through the motions of abandonment. So that was when dealing with a situation like that, I think that you go through multiple stages of grief.
Mm.
I think with the lyrics, I wanted to try to capture all of those different stages of grief that you feel when something in your life, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Track 6, Deliverance of Steel. Great title. Great. That kind of priest-like type stuff in there. Just a great track. I loved it.
You like that track?
Yeah. Deliverance of Steel. I did like it. The minute I read the title, I knew I was going to like it.
Yeah. It's funny because the name of that track is actually about that entire song. Yeah, that was one that I think that we were getting towards the end and deciding that we were ready to start recording. And I think that we had worked on it to the point that we didn't want to throw it away. Personally, I wasn't super pleased with it. We don't play it live now. We're at the point now where we've written new songs and we shove that one under the rug. It's on the back burner for sure. But I hear a lot of mixed opinions on that song. So it's interesting because a lot of people are like, oh, that's the weakest track on the EP. And I'm like, yeah. And then other people love that song, which is cool. That's the beauty of music. Everything is entirely subjective. So,
yeah, everybody's interpretation to it.
Yeah. So
and then, of course,
it was a little too beat downy for me, and it wasn't necessarily the traditional style that I was shooting for. But the other guys liked it, and the majority of Midnight Vice operates through the majority rule.
Yeah.
4 guys are down to do it. If not, then it's tough luck for that one guy.
Yeah. To me, it had a classic priest-like vibe to it.
Yeah, yeah. There's parts of the song that I like, and it's funny because I make a very solid effort to not listen to my own music because that's when the big critique in me comes out. I'll just throw it on. The last time I heard Deliverance of Steel, I'm like, I don't know why I dog this song so much.
Yeah. Then, of course, you close out with a Sabotage cover of White Witch. You guys true to form on that. Just,
we tried to really do that one by the playbook. Sam is a big Chris Oliva fan, and we're all Sabotage fans. And that solo, at the time when we were recording the EP, we were doing so many covers because we didn't have enough songs to fill our time slots for being live. So we had this ginormous array of covers to choose from. And we had always said that we wanted to put one on our EPs. And none of us could agree on one at the time. So after we had recorded an EP, we just said, fuck it, we're doing it. Or like, we'll do it on the album or whatever. And then an opportunity was presented to us by our good friend Chris. And Chris is who recorded White Witch. He just said, hey, come into my studio, record a single free of charge. And at this point, we were already signed what was Fireflash at the time, which is now Roar. So we weren't really able to release a single. So we just made it work to where we were able to record the cover that we never did for the EP. And we were able to use it as a bonus track for the physical release of the EP, which I thought was an awesome tactic. And it was like clockwork how it went down. So
yeah, that's excellent. Let's talk a little bit of This Is Your Life. Did a little research on you.
Okay.
Before the band started, and I can see him in the background there, you were a skateboarder. And skateboarding led you to music.
Yeah, dude. I am a very skateboarding fan. Sam and I will go skate every weekend. That's like our exercise. But that was what I was doing throughout my teens. And I didn't decide that I wanted to be in a band until I was about 20. So I was just skateboarding that entire time. And I had sponsors and stuff. And it was something that like I did all the time. That was my only hobby that I had. And it exposed me to a lot of music, especially in developmental years, just being like a 12-year-old kid And I think that's when your sense of identity starts to develop, you know,
Definitely.
going through the motions of figuring out who you are. And skateboarding is such a diverse culture that you're exposed to so many different genres of music and just so many different styles in general. I used skateboarding to find my path, and that's how I developed my music taste. So I learned a lot about punk rock. I learned a lot about heavy metal just through skateboarding, and it captivated me so much. I started to dig deeper into the music aspect of things. And by the time I got to be about 20, I was like, man, I really want to like do something like this. I think that I even wanted to do it earlier when I was younger, but I was just so involved with skateboarding that I didn't want to take away from it.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I just, whatever, I'm going to do this. And that was when I broke off from the skateboarding full time and really got into the nitty gritty of doing it.
Let me ask you this. Is there anything that you learned or did from skateboarding that you bring to like your live show? A pose, a way of moving on stage, the way you do anything, breathing, anything like that?
I don't think so. I think skateboarding, I think for anybody that skateboards, has been skateboarding for a long period of time, will tell you this, is that it drives you insane because you have to take so much time to learn how to do it. And you have to suck at it for a really long time before you get that it almost develops a sort of work ethic in you.
Okay.
And I think that was something that really helped my outlook on music because I didn't want to be lazy with it. And I just really wanted to go balls to the wall with it. You know, I think skateboarding did that for me with pretty much every aspect of my life, with my how I am at work and stuff, instills a certain work ethic in you that I think a lot of people don't have. So I would say skateboarding in that aspect has probably helped me with music.
Cool.
In terms of live performance or anything like that, no, not really. I just get into my own about stuff like that.
All right. You also have an associate's degree in mechanical engineering?
I have an associate's degree. I was
Okay.
pursuing mechanical engineering
Okay.
in college, and then I stopped going to college.
Okay.
Not funny how that went.
Hey, we all go in different directions. I was intrigued when I heard that about you because that's where I almost headed in high school too. And I just couldn't see, because this is back in the 80s, I couldn't see myself sitting behind a drafting table with a pen and triangles and stuff doing that.
Yeah,
You know?
the thing is with engineering is it's a difficult degree because of all of the classes that you have to go through to learn how the software already does the math for you, but you have the principles of the math. And it was just something that because I took engineering in high school and I used like different softwares. I used SolidWorks in my senior year of high school and I got really good at it. And that was what made me want to pursue engineering. But then when you get into college, you have to learn, you have to take all these different classes that explain all of the mathematics behind it. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You too much for me, you know, staying up until 3 o'clock in the morning, just studying and doing homework and stuff. And it just drove me nuts. I think the music thing started to get a little serious. And that was when I decided that I would take a year off, see where the music went,
Right.
or a couple years later.
I also saw where you collected vintage patches.
Oh,
Music.
I'm a big patch guy.
Mhm.
I'm super serious with patch.
What's one you're most proud of that you have in your collection?
Well, let me just break off for a second. I know I'm accurate.
It sounds good. Kind of psyched to see these. Here we go.
So this is the vest that I was working on.
There we go.
All of this stuff in the front, all these t-shirt Slayer guys, they're gonna know that these are all original 80s.
Ooh, heavy patent Y&T. Yeah, definitely.
Got the original Defenders of the Faith.
Nice. Exciter, Venom.
That's up you a blade.
Yeah.
Got a big old vintage Megadeth backpack.
Nice.
Nothing like the big Megadeth is always the backpack for me. It's one of my hero bands, I guess you could say. So
Yeah.
this is another one I started working on. Megadeth backpacks just as a standard. and all of these patches is
Nice.
all original 1980 patches. So I went through a huge patch phase, and I was just fucking diving super deep on T Player trying to find all the patches that I wanted. Yeah, man, that's one of my little quirks that I like to collect aside from vinyl.
And you also do He-Man toys?
I was doing He-Man toys for a while. Actually, I'm getting ready to sell all of mine.
Yeah.
I went through a toy phase in my early 20s. That's not really my thing anymore.
Yeah. Cool. Now let's talk getting back to the music now, swinging back to the music. One of the cool things I read, it was from another guy's review. I can't remember his name or anything. And this is where, again, you discover music. He thought you guys sounded a lot like a band from the 80s called Damien Thorne. Had an album out called The Sign of the Jackal. Have you ever heard of those guys?
No, I haven't actually.
I looked them up on YouTube. It's there. You can hear the influences there. You can hear what am I trying to say here? It sounds a lot like you guys. Yeah, that's the word I was going to. Similarities.
Oh, that's a new one for me. We get a lot of different comparisons. I think the big one that we get a lot is Enforcer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because number one, the bass name, obviously, and
Right.
one lead singer. If Enforcer is certainly influenced for sure, but I don't think that we were ever necessarily looking at their homework.
Yeah.
We get Sculpus. I think Sculpus is definitely another one that vocally for me, that's a band that I take a lot of inspiration from. That's why you hear all the high pitched falsetto.
Yeah.
So that's definitely an influence for me in terms of my songwriting.
Yeah. Now you talked about when you do your lyrics, you like to paint a picture and stuff. Were you in school? Were you really good in English?
I was very good. Actually, that was a subject that I dominated in all the way through college too. Really good at that. So written communication, all that stuff, even speech, things like that. That was where I excelled.
Mm.
That doesn't make you money. All the money is in the mathematics.
Yeah, especially nowadays. But it sounds like you were one of those guys who could take a prompt, the sky is really blue today, and then just take off with it.
Yeah. I think in order to write really good lyrics, I think you have to do that. And especially when you're doing when you're chasing such a nostalgic sound, there's a lot of lyrical themes that have already been done multiple times, and you have to find a way to repaint that canvas and try to make it your own. I think Excalibur is a song about swords and whatever, and spellcasters like Dungeons and Dragons, and there's plenty of other songs out there that have that same lyrical theme, but you have to find a way to try to make it your own.
Yeah.
That's what I always shoot for. I try to make sure that I'm not really ripping anybody else off. I try my best, at least. Really copying any lines or anything or saying any certain phrases that I'm sure that I've heard before.
Like I said at the top, you guys have a great vintage sound, but it's still fresh.
Yeah.
Is what I could go with. Like I said, I grew up in the 80s, but it's new enough. So it's not, oh, I've heard this before. This is really cool.
And that 100% goes back to the original, the OG new wave traditional metal guys like Enforcer, Skullfist, and Cauldron. All those bands, I was blown away when I heard those guys because it was just so cool to hear such a nostalgic sound, but reinterpreted in the modern day.
Yeah.
I had a real fascination for that. And I wanted to make sure that we were emulating that as well. I didn't want to sound too new, but also at the same time, I didn't want to sound like Iron Maiden Cat or
Sure.
Else.
I remember the first time I saw Mesmerized by Fire, that video, I was like, holy shit. Then when they hit that timing change on the solos, I'm like, did they just start another song?
Yeah,
Blew me away.
That was awesome. I loved that band first found them, and I was absolutely just those three all throughout my senior year of high school. I mean, those were the only three bands that I was listening to. I just thought I was blown away because that was the first sound that I had ever heard of any sort of movement of bringing back that 80s sound.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that before because I was just listening to all old shit.
Yeah.
So
how was it standing on stage with George Lynch singing Dream Warriors on St. Patty's Day, you know?
It was terrifying. Yeah, it was funny. I think a lot of people have this weird consensus that like I'm super tight with George, and we were hanging out backstage and all of this stuff. But it was funny, man, because other than that, I didn't share 2 words with him.
Really?
Yeah. He was on his bus, and then he came out, and I saw him. He walked through the green room and then went up on stage, and I didn't talk to him. He was a little frustrated with what were going on. So it was super awesome. They rightfully signed schedules. And he jumped up on stage and started playing, and I was like, "You gotta go out there and do Dream Warriors with him." And I was like, because I had just seen how irritated he was.
Yeah.
I don't want to like step on this guy's toes or anything. It was great, man. It was definitely a bucket list moment for me, because I also play guitar as a hobby. And when I was learning how to play guitar, George Lynch was a massive influence to me. I loved playing all the Dawkins songs and just learning how to do stuff like that. So just to be able to stand on stage with and just performing with him as a whole is a huge honor.
Cool.
And especially more so because I remember riding around in the car, my dad, we were listening to Dream Warriors, and
Yeah.
explaining-
Awesome moment.
he was explaining all of the Nightmare on Elm Street lore and how the song was written for Nightmare on Elm Street. And so it was just like, it was a really interesting full circle moment for me. So it was like super cool.
Absolutely. You guys are working on a full length. Any timetable for that coming out?
We're working on it. Right now, we're shooting to have everything full tracks by later this year.
Okay.
Um,
Cool. And touring? Any type of tour?
We're doing a short run. We're doing a short little Florida run with Void here towards the end of May. And I think we've got a couple dates with Beer Center.
Okay.
But nothing touring wise right now. I think 2025 is the year for woodshedding and recording. We're hoping to probably tour off the album.
Cool. I've been talking with Tyler here, lead vocalist for the band Midnight Vice. Their debut EP being released physically April 4th on Roar Records. Buy it anywhere? Do you guys selling it through a website or anything that we can point people towards?
Not at the moment, but go to RPM Roar. They'll have them there for sure.
Okay. Excellent. We've been talking with you for, of course, the Metal Pit. I always like to wind up with fun questions, Tyler. I'm hoping these are questions you've never even been asked before. Sound good?
Right, man. I'm stoked. Yeah, let's do it.
First celebrity crush.
Fox.
Ooh, good one. If you could have a song off of your EP placed in a TV show, what TV show would you pick?
Does it have to be a current TV show or
No, you can pick any show. We'll put it in a rerun.
Rider?
Ooh, nice. What is a day off from music like for you where you're not going to do anything musical? What do you do to wind down?
Skateboarding, coffee, and beer.
Okay. Favorite toy growing up as a child?
I had a lot of Terminator toys growing up.
All right.
Big one.
Let's see. What do I got here? If you could go back in time and eat one of your mom's favorite meals from your childhood, what would you pick?
One of my mom's favorite meals?
Yeah. One of your favorite meals that your mom prepared for you from your childhood.
That's a good question. It might be probably the buffalo chicken dip, I think.
Okay. Go-to karaoke song.
18 Light, always.
Always. Yeah, I could hear that. Yep, definitely. Favorite old school wrestler.
Ultimate Warrior. I don't know a lot about wrestling, so I got to go with one of the cliche ones.
Okay. When was the last time you walked outside barefoot?
It's been a while, man. I got to go touch some grass.
Okay. All right. Do you prefer to drive or be a passenger?
I like being the passenger.
You like being the passenger? All right. Last one. This is the one we have the most fun with. If they were to make a biopic of your life, what actor would you pick to play you? And it's your movie, your life. You can pick anybody.
And I could pick anybody?
Yeah, you can pick any actor you want.
Man. I would want it to be, who was that guy that played Neil in the Dirt? Daniel Weber, I think. Yeah, it would have to be him because he's like way better looking than me. Or maybe Jackson Davenport from Void.
From Void? Okay.
I don't know if he can act or not, but I feel like he would do a good version.
I'm old school. Sitting here looking at you, the way you've got your hair down and everything, I would pick Sean Penn from the Spicoli era from
Oh.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
That's fucking awesome. Love that.
And I'm old enough so that I could play Mr. Hand.
Perfect. And I love it.
You're on my time.
I'm down with that too, man.
Tyler, was there anything we didn't touch on in the interview? Anything we didn't talk about that you would like to throw in here? We got a couple more minutes.
Oh man, I don't think so. Yeah. I think I'm pretty much golden, honestly.
We hit everything. All right.
All I want to say is that heavy metal never dies.
All right. Tyler, much success to you in the future. You guys have a great sound. I hope you keep it going. I'm looking forward to the full length, and you go out, you book some more shows after that. Once you hit the road, may all your shows be sold out and your travels be safe.
Thank you so much, Lance. I really appreciate you, man.
All right. Take care, man.
All right, man. You too. Later.
Bye-bye.